Okay, chapter 6 of Tanya. The composition of the animal soul. The structure of the animal soul mirrors that of the godly soul with 10 faculties, 7 emotive and 3 intellectual, and 3 garments of thought, speech, and action of mundane pursuits. You see, the Alter Rebbe explains that its structure, the animal soul, exactly parallels that of the divine soul. Just like the divine soul has 10 faculties and has the 3 garments of thought, speech, and action, so too the animal soul. But unlike the divine soul, the substance of the animal soul is klipa, and its faculties and garments are impurity. By clothing itself in these garments, the animal soul descends to an even lower state of impurity. Remember, we were studying that when we do acts of kindness, or we do any action, thought, or speech in relation to God's commandments, our soul gets elevated infinitely. Well, when we engage in non-holy acts or even mundane pursuits, meaning not L'Shem Shamayim, then what happens is the godly soul, unlike it being elevated by Torah mitzvahs, the animal soul gets degraded and gets to even lower level of impurity. So let's describe what this klipadik kind of action means to us. Klipa means a shell. And inside, let's say, a fruit that is covered by the shell, there is good within it. So, too, our animal soul has these shells, and it gets wrapped around by negativity that causes these klipas to basically bury the good within us, like a shell that covers the fruit. And so there's 2 categories of klipa. There's the klipa noga, which from the word noga is shining. That means that depending on how you thought and you use your speech or you use your actions in a negative way, depends how coarsened your being will be. So there are things that are neutral. For instance, you can eat something not because you're indulging in something not kosher. It actually could be very kosher. But because you're eating it in an indulgent way, then it turns into like this shell that's going to cover your godliness. And let's say the food you use for energy of learning Torah or praying, then the energy then will be released and channeled for something good. But let's say something like, another example the Alter Rebbe gives is a leather strip. Okay, so it's like a neutral thing, but depending how you're going to engage in that leather strip, you can make it into tefillin, and then that becomes very holy, and the sparks of holiness in that leather strip gets released. But if God forbid you use that strip and make it into a whip and whip something, use it as a whip and whip somebody, then that actually really conceals the holy element of that leather strip, and it becomes buried. Now there are some things, and they are called, and this is the second category of impure klipot, and they're wholly evil, and it cannot be transformed into holiness, and that is shlosh klipot tameot. They are the 3 impure klipas. This has to do with everything under the sun that God forbids us to engage in, whether it's lashon hara, or whether it's unkosher food, or whether it's orla of a tree that has not been in the world for 3 years, or whether it's God forbid, other transgressions that are listed in the Torah. It just is forever, in our lifetime, that nothing that we can do to elevate any sparks in these deeds. In fact, by not engaging in these deeds, do we elevate the sparks that is trapped within them. By, again, not engaging in these deeds. And these are the 365 Lo Taseh Mitzvot. So we see these 10 crowns of impurities are the same structure of the 10 faculties of the soul. Remember, we had Chokhmah, Bina, and Das. So in essence, we really have to be very careful what we put our mind to. The saying, you are what you eat. Well, you are also what you put your mind to. And it's really important, because the more we attach our mind to Torah learning, then the more we'll have the byproduct of all these healthy emotions. But the more we put our mind to vanities, then the byproduct will be the 10 unclean garments of our soul, including the thoughts, speech, and actions, and all the other 10 faculties of the animal soul just then become more and more impure and get more and more degraded. So we see very important, even just simple acts throughout the day, to have in mind that I'm partaking in this very physical, seemingly mundane act, like let's say eating or sleeping or even exercising, l'shem shamayim. Because if it is bereft of that holy intention, then we're taught that it increases the negative powers of our animal soul. And so that way, a person who has maybe anger management problem just ended up giving more power to that fiery part of their temperament in a negative way, or anxiety. Or if someone who is battling sadness, so their sadness will get stronger and stronger over time because of these mundane acts that are not l'shem shamayim. And how much more so, God forbid, if we're really engaging in the prohibitions of Hashem's Torah. And it's not like, okay, God's punishing you. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with everything that that is in your power to either feed your godly soul or feed into your animal soul and make your animal soul's negative energies grow stronger. I give an example of like 2 plants, and you have only so much water. Are you going to feed the plant that's a life-giving fruit-bearing tree, or are you going to feed the poisonous plant? So it's our choice. What are we feeding our godly soul? Or are we going to give into and feed our animal soul? That is the question. And so it's really in our hands, our own psycho-spiritual development that is in connection with the deeds that we do under the sun. And it says here that even if someone eats neutrally, it coarsens one at least to the point of leading him then to self-indulgence. So even like if you daily eat not Lashem Shemaim, then your animal soul can get more and more coarse, and then you will end up having more of an indulgent, temperament, and one thing leads to the next. So then you become indulgent not only in the way you eat, but then you become indulgent in speaking negatively, or you become indulgent in obsessing negatively in your mind. See, everything is connected. And it also says here that one's animal soul gains strength by being exercised through eating and drinking. So we could take more action to purify our eating and drinking just for the sake of not feeding the animal soul, and not then letting our negative character traits get even deeper into negativity. I hope this was helpful to you. And I really pray that you make the connection. Some people don't know the connection. They just don't think that the way they eat is affecting their animalistic tendencies for the worse, God forbid. And they don't know that if they refine the way they eat, then it will refine their midot. Yep. Because there's a concept that's taught here that just like a person can get nutrients from Hashem face to face, like the good and godly energy, so too when you kind of turn your back away from Hashem and indulge and or like just do your daily acts without like a godly intent, then it's like into enemy getting from his captor, in a roundabout way and not face to face. Kind of like, ugh, you just captured me and now you have to take my booty. You're not going to give your enemy the booty face to face. You'll just like throw it from your backhand, from the backside, and say, you got me. I guess now, this is the way I'm going to give it to you. So we really want to get all that Hashem wants to give to us face to face, panim le panim.